Whenever the season started back in September and even during the preseason, there wasn't much talk about the Carolina Panthers. The 49ers, on the other hand, you could probably, if you'd have polled 100 people in this country, I guarantee you about maybe between 20 and 25% would have pegged the Niners as a favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. But this is a fifth seed on the road. They still got a chance. They're a very well-built road team. But if you'd have told anybody that this year the Panthers would win the NFC South and get the number 2 seed in the first round bye in the playoffs, I don't think you really would have been given much credibility. I don't. But that's exactly how the season unfolded, and honestly, it's been very, very interesting seeing it play out. You are listening live to Real Steel Sports with James Drisneric for the second part of my sports segment for tonight of the 4. In my previous segment, I broke down the New Orleans Saints at the Seattle Seahawks game, which will be the first game of divisional weekend at around 4:35 in the evening today, Saturday the 11th. This game will be, I believe, the 1 o'clock game or the day game tomorrow. But still, I got a more or less a full game to break down. It was funny because I was hanging with some of my friends, my girlfriend, the past few nights, so I didn't get a chance to do this, and it actually gave me more time to think about it. And honestly, of all the games this weekend, this was the game that I put the least amount of opinions and least amount of time into it because it's the game I'm the most sure of. A lot of people say, you should be sure about some of the other games. I'm very sure about this game. People were like, you're probably picking the Niners. Honestly, this game, I'm going to say right now, I'm picking the Carolina Panthers to advance the NFC title game, and I'll tell you why. There are a lot of people that say the Niners' playoff experience will work in their favor. Well, when you've got mismatches as big as the Niners have to worry about going into Carolina, you got some problems. And I'll tell you why. Because the first mismatch is, and this is the biggest one, the Carolina Panthers' offensive line has not been given near enough credit this year. Cam Newton may have been sacked 43 times. But if you look at the teams that he's played this year, Arizona can get after you. The Bills can get after you. The Seahawks can even get after you in a way. The Saints can twice. He's played some good pass rushes. And the 49ers defense has actually slacked off in pass rush this season as compared to last. As a team defense this year, they only registered 38 sacks, which is 6.1% of their opponents' dropbacks they're getting sacked. 6.1%. Last year, the 49ers, their pass rush was getting the opponents 6.3, not a big drop-off. And the year before that, 6.8. So their pass rush is starting slowly to lose effectiveness because teams are throwing against them more and they're not getting to the quarterback as frequently. And Matt Khalil, the offensive center for the Panthers, and that whole line, or Ryan Khalil, I can't remember which Khalil's playing, but that Panther offensive line has done a marvelous job this year of keeping Cam Newton in the pocket and giving him a chance to make some throws that have won some big games, and more importantly, to open up some run lanes. I would have to say that that's going to be a big problem is if Cam Newton can stay upright in the pocket and can move his legs, or even if D'Angelo Williams or Jonathan Stewart make some plays on the ground, even Mike Tolbert, they got some chances, definitely. But the biggest mismatch is that same argument on the other side, and it's the Carolina Panthers defense. 60 sacks this year. If you look at this, season, and you just see how things have played out, Carolina's defense arguably might be the best in the league because it's the one defense that can do a combination of shut you down in the run game, completely shut you down in the pass game. Not as much in terms of yardage as, say, the Seahawks, but they get to you more. The Panthers have 60 sacks on the year. Led by defensive end Greg Hadey, and defensive lineman Charles Johnson. That's 26 sacks between two guys. Star Latulippe in his first season, 3 sacks. And Luke Kuechly, who is my pick for the Defensive Player of the Year, 93 tackles, 63 assists for a grand total of 126 tackles, 4 interceptions, 2 sacks. This defense is so complete. Now, the 49ers the past 2 weeks have played an Arizona defense, which is pretty good, and relatively similar to Carolina's, because it's a pass rush heavy scheme. And they also went to Green Bay and played a 3-4 defense that was completely just completely robbed of its starters pretty much because of injuries. It was ravaged. Clay Matthews wasn't playing, and B.J. Raji didn't play well, but still. San Francisco's offensive line is completely overmatched in this game. They are overmatched. Think about it. They're going up against a team in Carolina that gets 60 sacks this season. That's 4 shy of averaging 4 per game. Averaging 4 per game. Some teams didn't even average 2 this year. And team averaged almost 4. Well, think about it. This defense can do just about everything. Now, their secondary has something that's been brought into focus as a weak point, but Colin Kaepernick is not the kind of quarterback who's going to sit back there all day and dissect you. Eventually, the pressure's going to get to him. He's going to get sacked 5-6 times. It's going to happen. Like, throughout the course of this game, you're going to start to see the Panthers' pass rush more and more and more become a factor in this game between the Panthers and the 49ers. I would like to also point out that in the previous matchup between these two teams, which ironically was the last time the 49ers lost a game, it was on November 10th. No, actually, they did lose another game after this. I keep thinking they didn't, but they did. That was a loss to New Orleans the following week. In that game, Colin Kaepernick was sacked 6 times for 45 yards. Their offensive line is no different. They're the same team. They're not going to get any much better. I know they had a chance to evolve and gel more and more and more as the season's gone on. It's a veteran offensive line. It's been the same way for the past 6 seasons, pretty much. More or less, because a lot of the guys were there even before Jim Harbaugh was there. It doesn't really matter. The 49ers are a good run block offensive line. Their pass block offensive line is not that good. I mean, if you flip it over, you've got, on the Carolina defense, guys who can make plays. On the 49ers defense, you got guys who can make plays too, like their linebacking core, which is the best linebacking core in the league, I think, with Lamont Brooks and Alden Smith on the outside, and Pat Willis and Navarre Bowman on the inside. All those guys have been at least a first-team All-Pro once in their careers. That's astonishing, and they've only been together for 3 seasons. I would say that right now that the 49ers have a better repertoire of weapons on offense because Crabtree's back, Anquan Bolden's playing well, Vernon Davis, and then Frank Gore out of the backfield. Well, Cam Newton's got Steve Smith is supposed to play, Brandon LaFell is a good wide receiver, Greg Olsen is a good tight end, and D'Angelo Williams who could carry the load at running back. But the 49ers have an edge in that category, but it's not going to make a big difference because Colin Kaepernick is going to be under so much heavy pressure in this game. I know he's a mobile quarterback, but he's really only that mobile. He's not really mobile going east and west. He's very mobile going north and south, and he can run. Of course, the read option. Everybody remembers the play last year in the division round when he fooled the Packers defense for a 70-something yard touchdown. I don't know how long it was, but the point is he can run straight forward like a deer. Side to side, he's like a tortoise. And he's just big and he's slow. He's not like a Ben Roethlisberger where he can duck and elude and spin. And the Panthers pass rush is going to feast on him all day long because it's not like he's a little guy like a Michael Vick who can elude guys and get out of the way. He's big and he provides a target. So it doesn't matter if Crabtree's 10 yards open downfield. By the time Kaepernick can get set up and get to him, Greg Hardy and Charles Johnson are going to be in his face. This will be in my opinion, I've been thinking more about this game, and the one thing about this game that I have put a lot of thought of is this the game that proves Cam Newton's a true starting quarterback in the NFL, and I believe it does. This is the game that will ultimately show he belongs in this league. I think this will be his coming out party, and I think this is the game where he proves he was worth that number 1 draft pick. And I know he, above all, has been the reason why this team went from just being completely down in the dumps when they drafted him after the abysmal 2010 season where they were 2-14, but 2011 they draft him. They get 4 more wins. They look very impressive at the end, winning 4 of 6. Wins over the Texans that were going to the playoffs. Wins over that year over just a couple of really good teams. Then if you have 2012 where proved to 7-9, their defense gets even better. They beat the Saints. They sweep the Saints. They beat the Falcons, who would be in the title game. They beat the Redskins, who would ultimately get into the playoffs. And then this year, to go to 12-4 and have arguably the league's number 1 or number 2 best defense. They have become more mature as a football team. And I think that Cam Newton's been a personification of that, and I believe he shows he belongs. This game's going to be close, believe me. This ain't going to be a shootout. I think that San Francisco's going to keep it close because of their playoff experience. But going on the road and winning against the Packers is one thing, because of the fact that other than Aaron Rodgers, they don't have much to show for. This Carolina team may not have the same kind of talent offensively, but defensively, if the 49ers are only able to generate 23 points of offense in 4 quarters against the Packers, you can cut that total 10 points against the Panthers, because it is going to be a completely different ball game. Completely different. I've been, thinking about this game more and more, and the one thing that has kept crossing my mind is just Cam Newton. And that's it. I think this is the game where he shows he belongs. I like Cam Newton. As big a fan of the New Orleans Saints as I am, I've always liked him. I always thought that he was never, ever, I thought he was always, given the short end of the stick. Whether it was in college, whether it was early in the pros. But now he's starting to mature, and as a Saints fan, it's not a good thing that he is, but, in a way, I like the kid, and I think he's doing well. I like the Carolina Panthers to advance to the NFC Championship game to face the Seattle Seahawks. I say a 21-17 score. 20-17 is my final score for that game. So I pretty much cut 10 points off these scoring totals between that and the other game. I think Cam Newton proves he's a winner, and I think they beat the 49ers. Okay, everybody, that does it for my NFC divisional playoff breakdowns. I am predicting the Seattle Seahawks to host the Carolina Panthers in next Sunday's NFC Championship game. Let's see, it's the odd year, so that means the AFC game will be the first game. The NFC game will be the second game. We're right around 6:30. 6:30, I believe, will be the starting time. I predict Seattle will be playing Carolina. Okay, everybody, that does it for that. I will be back very shortly with the first AFC playoff game between the Colts and the Patriots. I will talk about that. Do I think that the Colts can go on the road and win against the Patriots, or do I think Tom Brady's experience is too much? I will talk about that all very shortly.